back, everyone. It's been a minute, and for a good reason. I believe we all kind of needed a break over the past week or so, and I hope you found some time and space to give yourself some extra self-love. We're about to exit this long-standing Venus retrograde that's been very tiresome for a lot of us when it comes to self-care and self-love. Not only because it's, Venus in her challenged state, but it's also during a time when self-care and self-love is challenged as is. There's a mass awakening and there's a lot of confusion when it comes to what is next. Can I even rest? A lot of survival mechanism coming up. So there's so much happening right now, creating lots of noise in the background. And I decided to sit with what was going on before I spoke on it in terms of the collective message. Although, check out my Substack. I have a Substack page now for everyone publicly that's basically moved my blog from my Wix Spaces app, from my website's Wix page on the Spaces app to Substack. So I will have weekly readings as well as weekly energy forecasts on Substack written now that you guys can check out publicly. Subscribe for free, and in the future I will have a paid subscription, very near future, that is going to offer discounts to my classes as well as information about alchemy and things that I teach. Spirit communications and things like that, development of psychic gifts, deeper levels of shadow work and aspects of the work that I do with clients one-on-one. That kind of stuff is going to be part of the paid subscription as well as discounts on the classes. So yay! Be on the lookout for that very soon, but go ahead and join my subscription on the Substack app. Now, what's going on is really a liberation to the entire collective in the most insidious and nefarious of ways. And I think it's obvious why I would say insidious and nefarious, but I think the thing that is not obvious is that the collective freedom that is being fostered by the current events. It's wild how this is happening, but that's what the message is about. What I am feeling energetically from the collective is a lot of pressure building in the upper chakras, as if there's going to be a lot of people pushing past those seals, the fifth, sixth, and seventh seal, which, those of you who have read Revelations of the Bible, these are correlated to the seven seals of consciousness, or the chakras. So these are higher states of consciousness, and it feels like the pressure is building and building and building. Pluto is assisting with this, and it's going to, eventually burst, right? And yes, there is levels of spiritual awakening happening, testing people's beliefs and perspectives on life, right? But then this is a conscious expansion. This is an expansion into higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of frequency, states of being. And this is extremely exciting. The problem is we can't see it because of all of the fear and chaos and madness. So that's why I chose to take a step back this past week and not do a weekly YouTube. I really wanted to get a better view of this before I spoke on it. And again, I could go into the depths of epigenetics and breaking ancestral patterns and the traumas and the healing on so many different levels with that. But what I would really like to speak on is, the shifts that we're seeing are fostering independent businesses. They're fostering independent thinking. They're fostering artists and trade work from a smaller community level. These are things we haven't seen in a very long time because it's been so much about corporate running the economy. But what happens when they tank? And again, I'm not an economist, so I don't want to go into this, but what I'm seeing here, again, on an insidious and nefarious level, is a slow and long-term fostering of independence collectively. Independent thinking, independent self-expression, and independent businesses and work that would essentially quantumly entangle us in smaller communities, supporting more environmentally friendly practices, and from growing foods and stuff to purchasing less mass produced products, and growing in a humanitarian sense on a person-to-person basis. So anyway, just consider that bigger picture aspect of what I'm speaking on, because we got the Wheel of Fortune at hand, and that's really what I'm considering when I see this. And we're going to take it from the macrocosm back down to the microcosm here. So right now, also, this Wheel of Fortune represents a turning of tables in relationships and situations specifically that have to do with work and finances, but also love. So take that as that resonates. But we have a lot of soul level reunions, if not reunions within couples, families, and situations like that at hand. These could be people, this could be communication. This could be some kind of celebration of sorts, some overcoming of certain things, and even ancestrally, maybe not even coming back together, directly. For some of this is overcoming challenges in relationships, but for others, this is overcoming challenges that sit in the back of your mind and coming to a place of peace internally. This is like making your house a home again, marrying the four corners of your reality, and an internal union that comes from some challenging situations. Sometimes the Four of Wands is like those twin flame reunions that spark triggering, dynamics and such. Now, with this, again, this falls on top of the Nine of Pentacles. So for some of you guys, there is an independent move or a move towards independence that you have made, that is basically spontaneously triggering these events to happen, catalyzing these events to happen. Again, all of this stuff working hand in hand, right? You become more independent. It challenges the people in your reality. It shifts the dynamics in your reality. It turns the tables. And then how people respond to that is their own prerogative, right? And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening right now. But for some of you guys, there is also something outside of personal relationships and something more business or work related. And it is about your financial independence or stability or self-sustaining ability to self-sustain that is challenged by a lot of the energy right now, or there is something happening very quickly for you, like the dominoes are falling very quickly. Now, here's the thing that you don't quite see yet, because this is more in the future position, is the Nine of Cups. So it feels like throughout this week, we're going to see a lot more of your ability to thrive in this situation despite the challenges present. And that is the Nine of Wands here, okay? So this really, for me, is kind of like where we're at on Monday. Mercury stationing direct. A lot of forward movement, a lot more clarity when it comes to the way we're thinking about things, the way what we're communicating. Almost like we're finally able to get words out that were stuck in our throat. So some of you guys could literally be breaking past that fifth seal in the throat chakra during this Mercury direct, and throughout the week. Excuse me, confirmation there. Lots of clearing as I say that. Lots of clearing in the solar plexus as well is what I'm feeling. No, excuse me. Oh, sometimes the trance mediumship, it's just a lot. Gaseous energy from the unseen. Okay, the other thing that's coming up here is pressure in a psychosomatic area that represents a fear of intimacy. So again, some of you guys, these challenges with community as well are going to be addressed starting this week. If you've had challenges with communities, you've been isolated, or you've had to change communities due to your own healing process, due to, things not being aligned with you anymore and realigning. Usually, often during that process, you find yourself in some form of isolation or just feeling left out or feeling like unable to connect at times. It feels like for a lot of you guys who have been in kind of a dry season, this is going to shift in a very positive way soon. But are you going to be open to it? Because I think that's where the challenge comes in. Is some of you guys, there's challenges with nervousness around how you communicate in new relationships, in communities where there's a fear of how you'll be perceived, a fear of how you'll be received, a fear of like triggering and challenges and dynamics that you might still be healing and working on, attachment wounds and things like that. As well as just the nerves of being around new people, in new communities, as well as some of you guys are being pushed to level up into, places that you previously would have been afraid to approach, meeting people that are cooler than yourself, or people who have more experience in your industry or your line of work than you do, and entertaining the idea of learning, growing, mentoring, or even becoming friends with these individuals. And so there is this, that's where I feel the nervousness coming up in the solar plexus for some of you guys, and or triggering in these situations as well, worthiness wounds coming up. Now, that was one of the main points that I made in my weekly Substack as well. So go check that out and read it. But when it comes to this independence, when it comes to the self-sustaining, this sense of stability internally, that worthiness wound is the key wound to focus on right now, and probably be the one getting poked the most through this week and the weeks to come as we move through this transition. This is going to be a transition with the Temperance card here as well. So just remember that as we move through this. So this is, so nothing's gonna happen overnight in terms of long-term change, but you might have some very quick mindset shifts, very, very quick open third eye activations and crown activations. So clarity comes on very quickly, but the rewiring process of your subconscious mind and shifting of behaviors will take time. So be gentle on yourself if you fall back. Give yourself grace if you feel like it's a bit of a roller coaster, because none of this is linear. But this is basically saying there's going to be movement. There's going to be new cards on the table this week, in a very positive way. But work with what you've been given and be open to new things, because the whole challenge here is the hangman perspective, gaining perspective and not shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to something new that could, rub shoulders with something that you're still feeling challenged by in the current state of things, whether that be for you individually or the world or your beliefs or whatever. Just remember, this is a time of evolution and adaptation. So you being open, the more that you're open, the more it's going to foster forward movement and progression, not just for you, but everyone connected to you. Quantum entanglement. That being said, as we move through this week, we have a Virgo moon throughout the middle of this week. And that moon is probably going to illuminate some of your irritations and resentments, as well as perfectionism wounds and stuff like that. So again, use that for what that is, because again, the South Node, what we're releasing collectively, is in Virgo. So this is going to be a powerful time to work through judgment, whether it be you judging or other people judging. And it's funny, the challenge cards that came out, the Temperance, the Three of Cups, and the Judgment card. But as much as I see this being some kind of obsessive thinking or challenging emotions that we're working through, again, specifically, I feel that in the solar plexus. It does feel like, again, by the end of the week, Nine of Cups and Judgment. We have some kind of aha moment. We have some kind of perspective shift. We have some, coming back to ourselves and, coming to a place of decisiveness that isn't divisive and allows us to move forward at peace. Because Saturday, the moon will be in Libra by then, and Venus goes direct on Saturday as well. So as we have Libra come in, it does again foster that, okay, let me find some balance here. Let me find some harmony with this situation, right? And then on Saturday, we have a full moon in Libra. Again, yes, bringing up issues with justice, but also stressing the fact that your happiness in this time is literally the key to you being able to bring any justice to injustices that you see or experience. So there is, again, this pressure to find satisfaction with where you are and what you have right now, challenges and positives, the pros and the cons, and work with it, right? And I'm getting chills as I say this. I just get this huge wave of clarity and shift in perspective and shift in mentality across the board by and through the weekend. For many, it's going to be something that you're working on throughout the week, and it's like by the weekend you have clarity. For others, it's going to be something that really starts to pressurize and build and release through the weekend, and continues to be a challenge as you move forward, but at least there is this new openness, new awareness. Now, the other thing here is the truth at hand. And some of you guys, this is, again, some kind of resentment, betrayal, something from the past, some kind of clarity that has come in throughout this week. And I talked about that in my Substack. So if you want more information on that, check out my Substack. But it does feel like someone's going to confess something to you, or to a third party that gets back to you in some way. So there's some kind of clarity or confirmation about a truth here that for some of you, you've been sitting with, like a betrayal. And for others, it could challenge a foundation in some sense, not just physical, but sometimes wisdom-wise, intelligence, belief-wise. So this causing challenges to what you're thinking. For some of you guys, this literally is going to represent some kind of belief that is being broken, like some kind of religious belief, some kind of spiritual belief, something, that's very foundational to your thinking and experience in this world. And again, I say spiritual and religious because it's the feminine energy here with the Queen of Pentacles. This is like the way that I carry out my feminine essence, the way that I see matriarchy, the way that I hold things and why I hold them like this, why I feel it should be held like this, the responsibilities I feel I am obligated to hold and upkeep, the maintenance of what womanhood is, and things like this. It's like this is shifting in some way, and I think for many of you guys, this is due to some kind of new level of awareness that's come on, something that has shaken, again, pushing past, I feel that in the third eye, pushing past how you perceive the world and offering you new opportunities to move forward, but will you be open to it? So for some, this is kind of like an ending to relationships, a change in relationships, and the way that we our dynamics in those relationships, the way we operate. There could literally be some breakups, divorces, challenges with business partnerships in this, changes of contracts and things. For many, this is spiritual contracts changing. Those of you developing spiritual gifts, and those of you working through generational traumas, healing generational patterns, healers, this is going to be a change on that level. Some kind of contract shift, some kind of opening to a portal, something new coming online here. But something feels... Is there something ineffable about this for some of you guys, where you're going to experience something on such a deep level? It will require some time to process. Try not to obsess during this time, whatever it is for you, because for some of you guys, this is literally breaking things on a subconscious level. I almost felt like I blanked out there for a second, which gave me this sense like there's a level of your personality shifting, coming online from like a deeper sense of self. Like for some of you guys, there's like access points to, original you when you were like a baby or when you were younger, right? Coming online when, before the world got to you, when you were a little kid, before the world got to you, like things like that the pure essence of you and your creativeness coming back online. The untainted version of you feels like that's coming back online, but with that, again, this potential to obsess, to overindulge in some ways, overthinking, things like that. Again, it does feel like if this is you throughout the week, you will find yourself in a place of peace by the end of the week. And if not, that is what your challenge is, right? Your challenge is to start pushing yourself, driving yourself to consistency with this sense of gratitude and satisfaction with where you're at, because you manifested this is what you wanted, right? And so when you can see that, and when you can, formulate your next steps based off of like, okay, this is what I wanted, so what about this do I not like? What about this am I challenged by? Okay, let's work on that. And yeah, just focusing more on independent thinking versus allowing yourself to be so driven by other people's thinking, other people's judgment. That's going to be the biggest thing here. Lots of sensitivity still. Again, Mars is still in Cancer through the 19th, 18th, 19th, something like that. So we have a burst of Leo energy starting the week, and then again, it's like slow and steady wins the race right now. And I think a lot of this is it's so powerfully orchestrated, because there is this roller coaster energy. This is just up and down, back and forth. Like it is very much temperance right now. The energy, it keeps going up and falling down, and going up and falling down. And that is the process of alchemization within the body, of releasing denser frequencies, right? Kundalini rises and falls. So there is this pressure that builds and release, and builds and release. And that's really what we're experiencing, from how you feel internally to our day-to-day life to what's going on in the current events. It just keeps again, building and falling. So the more you can come back into yourself and focus on yourself within all of that, work with it, make more of it, expand on it, instead of seeing it as a problem. And again, I'm just driven to the little snail in the corner here. And there's something slow, but something very big and full and fruitful to the Nine of Pentacles. I describe her as the female magician in the deck, because she has all of these tools, she has all of these things. And I talked about this, I broke it down from my perspective in this recent one of my recent Substack posts, if you want to go check that out. I think it was the FEO couch one. But anyway, I broke down that feminine essence of the Nine of Pentacles card, and how I see her as the female version of the Magician card. So anyway, that being said, the Lovers, there's a choice to be made this week. And again, for some of you, this is a choice in lifestyle, shift in lifestyle, to accept a better lifestyle, to accept a better self-care routine, to accept a better mindset moving forward, to be more at peace with this madness without deviating for the fight for justice, yes, but finding peace in it and flow in it and allowing that feminine energy to drive that revolution, rather than fight and despair and deprivation. So with that being said, let's see what else is coming through. Focus on your authenticity here as well. Okay, a lot of stuff coming up with this. Okay, they really want me to talk about the full moon here in Libra. A lot of pride coming out here, specifically driven by our insecurities. Okay, we have pride crossed with insecurities here, Leo and Cancer. But in this spread about the full moon that's happening on Saturday, we have 2 Libra cards and 2 Aquarius cards, really about bringing love and specifically self-love here, more than anything, self-love, and authenticity back to how you live, what you do, how you express yourself in order to access conclusions by the end of the week. We have show the world the real you, know that you are loved, bring love into the situation, and keep your heart open, which gives me the sense that, again, there might be some triggering situations around loneliness, around isolation, around betrayal, resentments in relationships, just feeling like you cannot gain full alignment in your relationship, so you keep just missing the mark in situations. And again, this is literally just a byproduct of realignment collectively across the board. I talked about this when the North Node moved into Pisces, but I forgot the word that I called it, the term that I called it, but there's going to be a lot of these relationships that come into play, or situations that come into play where we meet someone and we think this is a really great option for us, but Pisces has this edge of idealism to it, this rose-colored glasses aspect to it, sometimes, that has us overthinking something or over fantasizing something, and putting a lot of pressure on other people in relationships to comply in ways that either literally don't resonate for them, aren't aligned for them, or there's just not, you don't see them clearly and that's not who they are, and then you end up getting disappointed. And that's the thing about Pisces, is it's helping you not only expand yourself and your spiritual journey, but it's helping you do so through putting yourself in other people's shoes, seeing from other people's eyes, being able to access different angles, not just from your perspective, but from other people's, the restrictions, the disappointments, as well as the positives. Because I think so often, the grass is always greener perspective comes through, where we see other people's lives, but we don't see their inner challenges. All we see are our own. And then when we get disappointed in relationships, it's like, no shade, everyone does this. Oh, poor pity me. Not knowing what's going on with the other person or what they're dealing with internally. And so there is this challenge here when it comes to recalibrating a lifestyle, like a lifestyle change, a lifestyle shift, especially those of you, going through relationships and family changes, loss, death, grievances, but also those of you losing jobs or shifting jobs, changing careers during this time, or even over the past year or two, that has caused this lack of outside support, that has challenged support when it comes to love and friendships and family and just support systems. So again, here's a time when pride might come out, because it's just like there's just so much pressure building. But this is the challenge, to step back and find balance within that, by, again, coming back into the heart. All of this about the heart space, all of this about emotional fulfillment from a personal standpoint, just within your own means. And the heart chakra is literally the balancing force in the chakra system. It is the center of the in-body chakras. So find that within yourself this week, and really focus on that, and know that this is not a forever thing. This is a temporary shift. And yeah, it might be temporary, like over the course of a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, but it is not, the rest of your life. And I think that's the biggest challenge here, is like this like doom and gloom thinking that comes in during times like this. But Pisces has that effect. So just playing devil's advocate here and bringing some other angles to some situations that could have you just doom ridden in your perspective right now. Don't get stuck. Conclusions are within reach, and specifically towards the end of the week, patience. What else is coming through? Because I feel that it's like a lack of blood flow that I'm still sensing from this. I think some of you guys are really just distracted by the cold and the heartless right now. And as someone who studies sociopathy and has for over a decade and a half now, sociopathic behaviors, mannerisms, it is something that you have to detach yourself from and surrender to sometimes. Just knowing that, yes, that is something that exists, but it doesn't have to be my reality, right? I don't have to be oppressed by it. I don't have to be under the hand of it mentally, day in, day out. It is all how you feed the narrative around how it exists in our world, right? If you give it more power than it deserves, it will take from you endlessly. But if you can, again, separate yourself from it and put it, in a box until you're ready to see the quantum entanglement of it and go deeper on that level, which not everyone is, let it be. Come back to earth, come back to your body, come back to your reality. Find some, separation there, and know that you are loved. Because the biggest challenge here is just feeling swarmed by this madness and not feeling like you can't get any peace. I will say, myself as a content creator, with the censorship and the stuff like that that's been coming up, I have definitely felt that sense of the walls closing in at times. And I think as a psychic, this is something that I channeled collectively. And I've had to push through some deeper frequencies in my own energy field and ancestral traumas and stuff like that when it comes to this. But yeah, that is definitely something that is very present right now. But it doesn't have to be a reality. The walls aren't closing in unless you sit in that perspective and feed that perspective. Then you will create that reality where the walls are closing in on you. But if you can find time to get back into your body, to disconnect from the things in the heart chakra that are pulling on you from fear, pressing this idea of compliance and oppression, creating this reality where you don't have control, you don't have the ability to create change, then yes, you will fall into that, but you don't have to. So this is all about really working through pride more than anything. Anything else, as I say that, I'm seeing a crow swooping in, and that's funny because I did mention in a recent reading that I did, there was an image of a woman opening her mouth and the throat chakra clearing and a crow coming out. So like death, an expression of death and an expression of darkness, becoming an elevating process, something that frees up the energy field, and as above, so below. The need to accept and to integrate darkness into your spiritual practice in order to find balance is so key in alchemy, so key in universal law. And that is something that a lot of people are working on. So again, making friends with the shadows, shaking hands with the darkness, coming to acceptance and peace with death and the process of death in all areas, not just literal death, actual death. So with that being said, I wish you all a wonderful week. Check out my Substack, and I will have some more closer to the full moon to illuminate any other changes that are coming up with that full moon. Take care. Much love.